Prime Field.
Welcome to Prime Field. In the 2024 NCAA Women's Final Four, two generational talents stood on opposite sides of the court. For the Iowa Hawkeyes, Caitlin Clark, the architect of a high-octane perimeter-based offense. For the UConn Huskies, Paige Bueckers, the versatile fulcrum of a storied motion system. Iowa won, ending UConn's season one game short of the championship. But what if they had been on the same side? This is the story of a decision that was never made, a partnership that existed only in theory. It's a hypothetical that forces a fundamental question. What happens when an unstoppable force meets a system that has, for decades, been the immovable object of college basketball? Would the arrival of Caitlin Clark at the University of Connecticut have forged an unbeatable dynasty? Or would it have shattered the very philosophy that built the empire? At the heart of this scenario lies a philosophical collision. At Iowa, Caitlin Clark was the sun in a heliocentric offense. The system was built around her high usage rate, her unparalleled range extending to the logo, and her singular ability to both score and create for others. She was not a piece of the machine. She was the machine. At UConn, legendary coach Geno Auriemma had perfected a different model. His dynasty was built on a fluid motion offense, a system predicated on constant movement, precise spacing, and balanced scoring. The team, not the individual, was the star. In this system, Paige Bueckers thrived as a multi-talented guard, lethal with or without the ball in her hands. Integrating Clark would have presented Auriemma with his greatest tactical challenge. It wasn't a matter of adding talent. It was a matter of reconciling two opposing basketball doctrines. According to extensive analysis within fan communities, two primary pathways emerged from this theoretical crossroads. The first, a radical dual point guard system. Both Clark and Bueckers would share primary ball handling duties, creating a level of defensive confusion rarely seen in the sport. The second, and perhaps more likely path, would have seen Paige Bueckers shift to a full-time off-ball role. She would become the most dangerous secondary option in the country, capitalizing on the defensive attention Clark would inevitably draw. This would maximize Clark's historic scoring ability, while leveraging Bueckers' own elite shooting and court sense. The system would have to bend, or perhaps break, to accommodate a star of Clark's magnitude. The decision to pursue, or not pursue, a player like Caitlin Clark carried consequences that extended far beyond the court. Auriemma's choice had a cascading effect on the entire architecture of his program. In his established system, he recruited all-around stars who could fit seamlessly into multiple roles within the motion offense. With both Clark and Bueckers in the backcourt, that strategy would have been forced to evolve. The roster would have required a new kind of player, specialists, sharpshooters to space the floor, elite defenders to compensate for the offensive focus of the two stars. The goal would no longer be to find interchangeable parts, but to find complementary ones. This shift would have had a direct impact on other high-profile recruits. AZ Fudd, a top shooting guard prospect, had committed to UConn. But in a reality where Clark and Bueckers were already locked in as the primary ball handlers, it is a significant question whether Fudd's commitment would have remained. A backcourt that dominant demands a specific kind of supporting cast. The presence of Clark would have created a more specialized and perhaps more volatile roster. A high-risk, high-reward gamble built around two of the game's brightest talents. Between 2021 and 2024, the UConn Huskies consistently reached the Final Four, but failed to secure another national title. Each loss revealed a specific vulnerability that, hypothetically, Caitlin Clark's presence might have addressed. In 2021, the Huskies fell to Arizona in a stunning upset. In key moments, the UConn offense stagnated. Clark's proven ability to score in isolation and create opportunities out of nothing could have been the key to breaking down Arizona's tenacious defense. 1 year later, in 2022, they lost to Stanford. A dual guard threat of Clark and Bueckers would have stretched the Cardinal defense to its limits, creating mismatches and open shots that were otherwise unavailable. And then there was 2024, when UConn lost to Iowa. In that scenario, the equation is simple. With Clark playing for UConn instead of against them, the entire landscape of the tournament changes. Iowa's historic run is erased, and UConn's path to a potential championship becomes clear. These weren't just near misses for the Huskies. They were encounters where the unique offensive firepower of a player like Caitlin Clark could have represented the decisive margin between defeat and victory. The question of Caitlin Clark at UConn is more than a simple thought experiment. It probes the core tension in team sports, the balance between an iconic system and a transcendent star. Geno Auriemma himself has publicly acknowledged Clark's immense talent, stating that if she had wanted to come to UConn, he would have welcomed the challenge. Yet he also expressed concerns about the fit. Clark, for her part, has commented on feeling that UConn's recruitment of her was not as aggressive as it was for other top players. Had she worn the Husky uniform, the immediate consequences would have been seismic. UConn's offensive identity would have been transformed, potentially ending their championship drought and forging one of the most potent backcourts in basketball history. But the long-term legacy could have been even greater. A successful integration might have influenced coaching philosophies across the country, encouraging other system-oriented programs to become more flexible and star-driven. It would have offered a new blueprint for building a champion. Instead, it remains one of college basketball's great what-ifs, a story of two parallel paths that, for one brief moment in a Final Four, finally crossed.
Prime Field